Today, I'm excited to be joined by Nora Bussigny, French investigative journalist and author of the very interesting book Le Nouveau Antisémite, the new anti-Semites investigation by an infiltrator in the far-left ranks. After going undercover for over a year inside France's and Brazil's and Columbia University's campus, most radical pro-Palestinian activist networks where she actually posed as a pro-Palestinian activist. From Palestine rallies to faculty blockades and close Telegram groups, Nora emerged with a gripping first-hand accounts of how anti-Zionism has become the new glue binding far-left Islamist and intersectional circles. Her book has become one of the most talked about and controversial political titles in France this year. And with us to translate from French to English and back, Nina Lichtenstein is here also. Welcome to the both of you.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Okay, so Nora, it's very interesting to talk about your book, but let's start with you. Could you tell us a little bit about yourself, where you're from, and also where did this interest of yours come from to actually dress up and go undercover for 1 year in these pro-Palestinian circles?
Alors, je vais parler en français. Je m'appelle donc Nora Bussigny et je suis une journaliste d'investigation en France.
So my name is Nora Bussigny and I'm an investigative journalist in France.
Je suis spécialiste des sujets de l'ultra-gauche, militante et politique.
And my specialty is the far left, both militant and political.
Et je travaille énormément sur les mouvements islamistes en France et en Europe.
And the majority of my work is in Islamist movements in Europe.
J'ai choisi de faire cette enquête parce que j'ai sorti un précédent ouvrage avant celui-ci.
So I chose to continue the work because I had already published a work before this one.
Ce livre s'appelait Les Nouveaux Inquisiteurs et il s'agissait d'une enquête en immersion dans les milieux militants, féministes LGBT et antiracistes.
Okay, so the book that preceded this one was an inquiry into environments or milieus in the movements of, was it also militant, you said? Militant feminist movements, also LGBTQ, and the last thing you said?
Antiraciste.
Yes, and anti-racist movements.
Je voulais raconter comment, sous couvert d'un engagement très positif et très important, certains militants pouvaient agir de façon extrêmement radicale, voire violente.
So I wanted to explore and also uncover how, in addition to this work being often very important and very positive, certain elements among these groups actually chose deeply violent actions to fight for their cause.
J'ai notamment, durant cette immersion en 2022-2023, j'ai notamment été chargée en tant que personne franco-marocaine de trier des gens selon leur couleur de peau.
Okay, so during this research that you did, or in 2002, 2003, this was the period, because of your heritage, really, your background as a French Moroccan, in this immersion work that she did in 2002, 2003, as a French Moroccan with that heritage, do you mean to say that you was it easier for you then to enter this?
Yes, because it's during these demonstrations, it was important to separate people with the skin, the color of skins. And my books, The New Inquisitors, was published 3 weeks before the October 7.
Wow.
During the terrorist attacks, my first action was to reactivate one on my fake accounts, and I was very shocked because I discovered that a lot of feminists and LGBTQ activists are do an embarrassed silence, and a lot of activists are completely happy, very, very galvanized. They write on Instagram, oh, it's incredible, the oppressed, oui, l'oppressé se rebelle contre l'oppresseur. Le colon, le colonisé lutte contre le colon. C'est ce que je pouvais lire sur ces vidéos.
So, Henrik, she reactivated her accounts, right? Her fake accounts her fake social media accounts in order to go. And these were accounts you had created in 2002, 2003 during your undercover work there or your work. And then realizing that and seeing shockingly that many, I mean, I know she was saying this in English, so it's not all the news, but that there was celebration, and of what was seen from those perspectives of feminists, celebrating that the oppressed are standing up and fighting against and attacking the oppressors, because Jews and Israelis, regardless of their background, are considered as white.
Did this surprise you, Nora, that they were responding and talking like that after October 7th, or was it almost like you were expecting them to talk like this?
I don't expect it. For me, it was like I missed the elephant into the room. During 1 year, I was with a lot of activists, and I never see that. And I was completely confused because I was with a lot of feminists, which said, we trust the victim of rape. We fight against violence, and a lot of things. And I was completely lost. And for me, it was an emergency de recommencer une immersion.
So in other words, then it became urgent for me to resume my immersion into these communities in order to really understand and uncover.
Was this like a uniform response? Like, did everybody speak in this community that way, or was there also dissenting voices that talked otherwise, like saying like, "Hey, what are you doing? Why are you talking like this about Jews?" Did you also see that, or was it just like 100% that kind of way?
Of course, I for my book, I interview 100 peoples, and a lot of person were activists, feminist activists, LGBTQ activists, and they were completely shocked and very. Ils étaient vraiment en colère de voir les réactions dans leur lutte militante et de voir que certains pouvaient glorifier le terrorisme. Et ils ont témoigné dans mon livre. Ils sont beaucoup.
So she interviewed over 100 people, for this new book, right? And many were shocked. Many in the activist communities were actually deeply shocked that there could be this kind of glorification of violence.
Ils m'ont d'ailleurs beaucoup aidé parce que c'est grâce à eux que j'ai compris comment des féministes et surtout des militants LGBT pouvaient soutenir le Hamas. C'est grâce à eux que j'ai compris comment.
So she says that it's thanks to them really that I've come to understand how it is that feminists and LGBTQ activists have been able to support Hamas in their mission or their violence.
Yeah, because can you expound upon that? How were they able to do that? How were they able to do the mental gymnastics to be able to make that make sense?
Alors là, je vais devoir parler en français parce que c'est très technique. We are in the heart of the intersectionality and the problem of the intersectionality. Dans le logiciel, in the software intersectional, you are a privileged or you are an oppressed people.
So in the intersectionality, you're either a privileged person or you are an oppressed. And it's this duality, right? That's part of the problem.
Et surtout, il y a une hiérarchie dans les discriminations.
And there's also a hierarchy within discrimination.
Par exemple, dans ces luttes, le blanc gay, the white gay, est considéré comme privilégié.
So in this kind of battle, the white gay person is considered privileged.
Parce qu'il est blanc.
Because he or she is white.
Et donc, si tu veux déconstruire tes privilèges,
and so if you want to deconstruct your privileges,
il est important pour toi de ne jamais juger
it's important for you never to judge
la manière dont les peuples opprimés choisissent de lutter contre l'oppresseur.
To never judge how oppressed people choose to battle against their oppressors.
Par ailleurs, il faut savoir que ces militants sur lesquels j'ai travaillé utilisent tout le vocabulaire de la Seconde Guerre mondiale.
So it's very important also to note that in the milieu among these militants where I was working, they're using the language of World War II, vocabulary.
Oui.
In what sense?
Il nous expliquait très bien que on appelait terroristes les résistants en 39-45.
So the terrorists essentially were identified and likened to the resistance in the 30s and 40s.
Ils nous parlaient d'Holocauste pour parler de Gaza.
So they, the equivalent between, of course, what was going on in Gaza was immediately equated with the Holocaust.
Et il nous expliquait qu'il fallait qu'on soit du bon côté de l'histoire, du côté des opprimés.
And you have to, and it was quickly explained that you have to choose to be on the right side of history.
Et ça, c'est le plus important parce que on est au cœur de la question décoloniale, où il y a une véritable vision binaire.
Right. So we're in the heart really here of the narrative or the conversation of the colonial and anti-colonial and post-colonial, in which it is binary. That's the only thing that exists there is a binary.
Et je disais donc, pour être parfaitement déconstruit, tu n'as le droit de ne rien dire. C'est la même chose pour les excisions, malheureusement. You know, excision?
Are you talking about female
genital mutilation?
Female genital mutilation.
Just little girls in Africa.
So in this kind of environment and milieu and conversation and narrative, you have to choose a side.
Oui.
And it's, it's either for or against. It's either yes or no. It's either yes, black or white. Yeah.
So it's actually very tribal, like a football team, like black and white.
Yes, completely.
During your time there with these, were you able to have some kind of conversations with them, and were you able to make some of them maybe open their minds to other ways of seeing the world than just this intersectional narrative? Were you able to make somebody have like a eureka moment where they say, I haven't seen it like this before? Did you have any examples of that?
Oui, ma question préférée était de demander aux militantes féministes, quand j'étais en immersion, ce qu'elles pensaient des viols du 7 octobre.
Yeah, so my sort of go-to question when I was in these milieus, especially when I was with militant feminist people, was, what do you think about the rapes of October 7th?
Et j'avais à chaque fois 3 réponses différentes.
And I typically received 3 different responses.
La première, c'est que ces viols n'ont jamais eu lieu.
That these rapes never took place was a first response.
Ce qui déjà est contraire à la logique féministe parce qu'on doit toujours croire les victimes.
Which is already totally contrary to the feminist way of understanding rape, which is that the victim is always right.
La deuxième réponse,
Or
c'est qu'il y a
actually,
bien eu
I'm
des
going to
viols.
just say, not that she's always right, but you always believe the
Yes.
victim. Okay, go ahead.
Mm.
Sorry.
Et la deuxième réponse, c'est qu'il y avait bien eu des viols, mais ce ne sont pas des viols antisémites. Ce sont des viols patriarcaux. Parce que le Hamas a une masculinité toxique comme tous les hommes.
Mhm. So, and a second response would be these are not rapes that take place for anti-Semitic reasons. They're rapes that are of the patriarchy acting them out because Hamas is a completely patriarchal organization with patriarchal, misogynistic views.
Et pour eux, le patriarcat est partout. Donc ce n'est pas la faute du Hamas,
All right.
spécifiquement.
So they didn't consider Hamas as sort of being in the wrong because patriarchy is all over. It's not just a problem for Hamas, it's like a universal problem everywhere. So it sort of deflected the fault or the guilt.
Et la troisième, et pour moi, c'est cette troisième question qui illustre le mieux la question décoloniale.
So the third response, which to me illustrates best the colonial narrative and point of view, is the following.
Une militante féministe m'a expliqué que le Hamas avait répondu avec sa culture et qu'on ne peut pas juger une autre culture, surtout quand on est blanc.
Mm. And so one of the feminists explained to me that the Hamas, Hamas is responding as a culture, and you cannot judge another culture and their way of responding, especially not if you're white.
Et c'est ça qui est le plus important parce que quand il parle de culture, il parle de la culture arabe et c'est aussi ma culture. Et ce n'est pas ma culture de violer et de torturer des gens.
Right. And so this is, for me, especially important because of my Arab culture. To say that, for Arabs, it's natural to rape. I mean, that's just not the case. So this is where I found sort of the most elucidating commentary on October 7th.
But were you able to reach through to some of these people and make them think otherwise, think differently, and come to a different conclusion, or was it like talking to a brick wall?
On avait deux types de militants, des profils de militants. C'est important de les distinguer.
We have two different types of militants, and it's important really to distinguish them from each other.
Les premiers, ce sont des jeunes, souvent des étudiants, qui sont privilégiés.
So young, privileged students, typically.
Je dis privilégiés parce que la plupart n'avaient pas besoin d'avoir de job étudiant. Ils avaient leurs parents qui payaient tout.
Mm-hmm. So I'm saying privileged in that the majority of them did not have to, work and study. They had parents who paid their bills while they were students. So in that sense, I'm talking about privilege.
Eux, par exemple, n'avaient aucune connaissance du conflit. Ils ne savaient pas définir le mot sioniste.
So among this group of activists, or among this group of people who had reacted, they had no notion of history or the conflict, the Arab-Israeli conflict, and could not even define the concept or the word or the notion of Zionism.
Et leurs discours étaient manipulés et radicalisés.
And their discourse was manipulated and radicalized
par des organisations liées au terrorisme et au régime de la République islamique d'Iran.
Yeah, by organizations that were connected to terrorist movements and the Islamic Republic. Yeah.
Et donc, c'est pour ça que je fais la différence entre pro-palestiniens et anti-israéliens.
So that is why I make a distinction in the book between pro-Palestinian and the anti-Israel, anti-Zionist, anti-Israel, and the pro-Palestinian. Mm-hmm.
But were you able to one of these two groups or both of them, were you able to reach through to some individuals and make them think differently about the situation or about how they view it?
Non, jamais. Ils ne pensent pas différemment. C'est ça la question, je crois. Est-ce qu'il y a certains qui pensent...
Right. I think Henrik is trying to understand if your work as you were undercover. I mean, essentially you're undercover, right?
Yes.
And you're infiltrating these groups to do your research. And he is trying to understand if you had conversations with them that made them pause, right? That gave them pause. Est-ce qu'ils ont réfléchi donc pendant vos conversations et les discussions? Est-ce qu'ils ont réfléchi ou réalisé ou peut-être même reconnu que ce qu'ils ont acheté en tant que slogan et compréhension, que c'est quelque chose qui ne marche pas. Il veut savoir. Non.
Jamais, absolument jamais. Au contraire, et ce n'était pas mon rôle de les convaincre. Mon rôle était de les laisser faire et dire ce qu'ils pensaient.
Right. So that's, what we know is that she didn't see it as her role to try to convince or enlighten, but in essence, to let them speak and to record and be witness to these kinds of attitudes.
Yeah, because we can also ask, did she ever see discussions between them, like about these topics, like, hey, and self-reflecting upon these things, like, hey, is it right of us of praising rape, and should we really do this? Like, was there ever some kind of self-reflection or introspection of going like some kind of way of looking at themselves?
Non, la plupart recrachaient un discours appris par cœur. Et ils disaient juste qu'ils étaient là pour soutenir la résistance palestinienne. Ça n'allait pas plus loin.
Yeah, so it didn't go further than essentially what they were saying was like regurgitated propaganda materials, and that the main thing was that they were there together to support the Palestinian resistance.
So was it also like almost a culture of no discussions allowed? You weren't allowed to dissent. You weren't allowed to have different opinions. You were only supposed to have this way or the highway. Like, was it also, did you feel a culture of that, or did you feel it was a culture where you were able to discuss or have different opinions?
J'ai pas trop compris la question.
So when you were doing this work, did you hear people even have conversations about whether or not there were nuances or different ways of understanding or any self-insight or, criticism, or was it just sort of one way, one language, no discussions?
C'est ça. One way, one language, one discussion. Et surtout, quand ils ne savaient pas, ils posaient la question aux leaders qui étaient toujours les plus violents et les plus radicaux. Surtout, j'ai beaucoup suivi Samidoun. Samidoun, c'est une organisation terroriste. On va y venir après.
Okay, so, if there was ever a question, it was brought up to sort of the leader, of the pack, so to speak, who was always the most violent and the most radical. And so that's where the answer came from this one place. And she's going to bring up later the organization Samidoun, which will be relevant. Go ahead.
Mais je n'ai participé finalement qu'à une seule manifestation qui n'était pas comme les autres. C'était à Angers en France.
So I only participated in one demonstration that was different than the others, and that was in Angers, in France. And
C'était une manifestation pro-palestinienne, mais à aucun moment ils n'ont appelé à soutenir le Hamas.
So that was a pro-Palestinian demonstration, but at no point during the demonstration was there any talk about supporting Hamas.
Ils n'ont pas appelé à détruire Israël, ils avaient même appelé à libérer les otages aussi.
So they did not, call out for a destruction of Israel, and they even called for to free the hostages.
Et le seul problème, c'est qu'il ne s'agissait que de personnes plutôt âgées et qui n'étaient pas nombreuses.
Mm-hmm. So one of the problems, you might say, is that it was mostly an older population. And qu'est-ce que vous avez dit?
Ils n'étaient pas très nombreux.
Oh yeah, it was a smaller, much smaller demonstration and an older, more mature population.
So this was a different organization from the others?
Yeah. Yes, it was a different organization, not the, pas les habituelles organisations radicales et plus jeunes.
Mm-hmm. So typically, the younger organizations with more younger population are more radical.
Did you ever hear them speak of violence, of terrorism, of willingness to like use violence and crossing that border from just using words to being physical and those kinds of things?
J'ai assisté à beaucoup d'actions violentes, notamment sur des féministes juives durant les manifestations féministes.
Mm-hmm. Yes. This is familiar for us, Henrik, from Oslo as well. So she had participated in many demonstrations, feminist demonstrations, that were clearly speaking up against Jewish victims. Jewish.
Oui.
Yeah.
C'était des femmes, des féministes juives.
Yeah. So
they are violence against a
Yes.
Jewish feminist because
Yes.
they are Jewish and they just want to support the message of the Israeli women's attacks and rapes during the 7th October.
Mm-hmm.
And these activists are very violent. Ils leur jetaient des bouteilles, ils essayaient ils les empêchaient de défiler, elles devaient être protégées par les policiers.
Yeah, these then pro-Palestinian feminists, I mean, French feminists would actually,
a lot of
yeah. So men and women feminists who marched in the demonstrations for feminism would be violent actually against any participants that were outwardly Jewish feminists. They would throw bottles at them, they would push them, and the police actually had to protect them. So go ahead. The worst?
Mm-hmm. And the worst demonstrations for me was in Strasbourg, in Alsace.
In Alsace, Strasbourg.
Strasbourg has the biggest Jewish community in France. And it was in 2025, last year. The mayor of Strasbourg is a feminist, ecological feminist, and Strasbourg have a partenariat, un jumelage, a partenariat with an Israeli city, Ramat Gan.
So they're a partner, right? So it's a sister city, we call it, with Ramat Gan. So Strasbourg is a sister city of Ramat Gan, and also Strasbourg has a very large Jewish population. And the mayor of Strasbourg is sort of an eco-feminist. That's her platform.
Et les militants voulaient que la maire mette fin à ce jumelage.
And the militants demanded that the mayor put an end to this sister city arrangement, this partnership between.
J'ai participé à une manifestation avec eux car tous les samedis, ils organisaient une manifestation contre la mer.
So, contre quoi? Oh yeah, against the mayor. So every Saturday there was demonstrations, and Nora participated in some of them, against the mayor because of this.
Et durant cette manifestation, les militants ont décidé de s'en prendre au McDonald's de la ville.
And they decided, the militants, to sort of like descend
attack.
upon, to like attack the McDonald's in the city.
Because McDonald's is on the
Right.
BDS, Boycott des Investissements Sanction list.
Okay.
Et donc, c'était un samedi midi. It was Saturday during the lunch. And there are a lot of family with children. And children eat Happy Meal. And we were 16. On était 60. 60, sorry. Yes, we are 60 activists. And on s'est mis à crier sur les familles et les enfants.
And we started to, and we, the militants and the activists, we started to scream at families and children sitting there eating their Happy Meals.
We said, you eat the flesh of the Palestinian children. Et là, I was very shocked because families are completely terrified. The police protects the families with children. And for me, c'était tellement dur d'hurler à des enfants qu'ils mangeaient de la chair d'autres enfants que je n'ai pas réussi à finir la manifestation.
Yeah, I couldn't even finish and be part of the demonstration to the end because it was like unbelievably difficult to stand there and scream at children that they're eating the flesh of other children. But that's what we were supposed to do.
Yeah, because I just want to ask you about that, follow up on that. Was it difficult for you during that year to actually be undercover and be a part of that organization? Like difficult emotionally for you for what you had to be a part of and yell and what words you had to use? Was it like difficult personally for you?
Oui, ça a été très dur car j'étais tout le temps dans une forme de dissociation psychologique.
Yeah, it was very hard actually for me because I constantly felt that I existed in sort of a state of disassociation.
Je devais faire toujours très attention car les militants vérifiaient que l'on était très heureux, très fiers, très engagés. Ils étaient très, très méfiants.
So they were very suspicious actually, and they often wanted to sort of make sure and verify that I and everyone was, enthusiastic and happy and energized.
Et c'était comme si je connaissais par cœur et je chantais toute seule, même chez moi, tous les chants glorifiant le terrorisme parce qu'ils étaient dans ma tête.
Yeah, so I had all these chants, these violent chants supporting terrorism in my head, and I was constantly hearing it even though I was at home.
Mais ce qui a été très dur, c'est que j'ai fait beaucoup d'erreurs au début et je ne me rendais pas compte qu'il y avait un vocabulaire codifié.
So what was very difficult, in fact, and I made mistakes in the beginning, is that I didn't realize that there is a sort of a language and vocabulary that's codified, so you have to know that in order to sort of prove you're in. And that was very
What
difficult.
kind of examples was that of that codified language?
Of course, I have do a lot of mistakes. During my first emissions, I said Israel, but they never said Israel. They said the Zionist entity. Or they said Israel, but with a pun, Israel to the hell. And after, during a discussion, I said ID force, Tzal in France, the army Israeli, but they never said 1984. They said the genocidary army.
Yeah, so they said
And
the genocidal army. They didn't call it, the IDF. And I made that mistake.
yes,
Were you also required to support Hamas and what they did on October 7th?
j'ai pas compris la question.
Alors, est-ce que vous étiez censé exprimer votre support pour Hamas? Et
Mais
c'est ce qu'ils
tous
ont
les jours.
fait. Ouais,
Every
day,
time.
every day,
Every
all
time.
the time.
And the worst is to express the support of Hamas in municipal rooms, dans des salles municipales. On
Yeah.
avait des accès privilégiés par des politiques qui nous laissaient glorifier le terrorisme tout le temps.
So we had actually special access to public spaces and municipal buildings and things like that, where we were supposed to glorify Hamas. I mean, that
Pire.
was, yeah.
Et le pire, c'était que l'on appelait à faire en France un déluge d'Al-Aqsa. C'est le nom donné à l'attaque terroriste du 7 octobre. Ou un intifada, tout le temps.
So we were called to encourage and be part of and chant and, strive for a global intifada in France. Like,
And Al-Aqsa flood, because Al-Aqsa flood is the name of the attacks of the October 7. And they want to do an Al-Aqsa flood in France.
So the Al-Aqsa flood, flood.
Sorry.
I'm
No,
saying it
because
in
flood, sorry.
flood, right?
And you said
France.
they wanted to do an Al-Aqsa flood in France as well?
Yes.
Il nous demande si ça a eu lieu.
Yeah. Est-ce qu'ils voulaient faire ça en France en plus?
Ah oui.
Yes.
Some activists are arrested when I after the publication of a lot of investigations, and they will be judged in France.
So there were activists who were arrested after the investigation, and they are now waiting judgment for this kind of terrorist incentivizing. Yeah.
Did you find that the violence was a big part of it? Was it almost like, I'm just thinking out loud here when you're speaking, was it almost like a group of people who love violence in search of a cause? Is almost like the violence comes first and then, okay, let's use the Palestinian cause and then we can use that to be radical. Which one comes first, like the Palestinian cause or the violence cause?
It's a good question. For me, it's not just to love violence. It's just to hate Jews. I'm a fan of George Orwell, 1948, and this book, George Orwell explains the theory of common enemy and how a common enemy can can reinitiate a lot of struggles, and these peoples wants the convergence of struggles. It's the dreams of this activist, and the common enemy is a Jew. They say it's Zionist, but I prove that it's not Zionist question, it's Jewish question. And the hate of the Jew is the most federator cause. And for these people, Palestinian cause is the intersectional cause, because they say that it's an ecological cause, because they speak about the oil in Palestine, and they are it's feminist cause, because they speaks about a lot of terrorist women like Leila Khaled of the Popular Front of the Palestinian FPLP. Yes, and they say that the terrorism is an emancipation for for women, and it's a symbol of the feminist Palestinian, and it's an anti-racist cause, a decolonial cause, and it's the paroxysm of the intersectionality. But of course, a lot of people are violent, and it's. I think I'm not I'm not psychological, but a lot of these people have a psychological problem. To say you eat the flesh of Palestinian children, you have a problem. Sorry.
Because I also, yeah, let's go back to that question with the Zionism versus Jews. What made you understand that this was not about being against Zionists? This was actually about being against the Jews. How did you understand that?
Yes, I had a lot of proof of that. And après la sortie du livre, j'ai témoigné dans des procès de victimes d'antisémitisme pour expliquer ça très, très simplement.
So after the book came out, I've actually been a witness in several legal cases that are against where anti-Semitism is the main topic. Yes.
The first time, ils disent que les sionistes contrôlent les médias, contrôlent les banques, contrôlent le gouvernement et détiennent de l'argent. Ce sont des tropes antisémites.
So there's you hear the typical anti-Semitic anti-Semite tropes. Jews control the media, Jews control the banks, Jews control everything, and it's recognizable. Like you.
But they say it's Zionist, but it's a basic anti-Semite tropes. And the second point is that they said les sionistes ont vécu un génocide et maintenant ils commettent un génocide.
Yeah. So the second thing that you hear a lot is that the Zionists have lived and experienced a genocide, and now they're committing a genocide.
But it's Jews. Ce sont les Juifs qui ont vécu un génocide, pas les sionistes. Donc, on sait très bien que là, on parle bien des Juifs.
So even there you can see, because of course it's not the Zionists that lived through the Holocaust or survived or died in the Holocaust. It's Jews. So already you see there, it's one for the other. It's exchanged indiscriminately.
Ensuite, en France, quand nous avons vécu des attentats terroristes par des islamistes, nous nous sommes toujours engagés à ne pas demander à des musulmans de se désolidariser des islamistes, parce que ce n'est pas la même chose. Il ne fallait pas faire d'amalgame.
So here in France, for instance, when there's been Islamist terrorist attacks, we never ask Muslims to disassociate from the actions parce que vous avez dit parce
qu'ils sont musulmans. On ne faisait pas d'amalgame. On ne voulait pas faire d'amalgame entre les musulmans et les terroristes. Heureusement.
Right. So nobody wanted to make this blend or this natural sort of convergence, assuming that just because you're Muslim, you're a terrorist, right? That was really important in France after like Charlie Hebdo and all these shootings. Yeah. Whereas on the other side, what she is telling us is that in the anti-Zionist supposedly narrative, that amalgam, that convergence of Zionist and Jew happens automatically without any critical.
On demandait à tous les Juifs de dire ce qu'ils pensaient de Netanyahou. Et ça, c'est antisémite.
So every Jew, in France was put on the spot to express what they thought about Netanyahu, as if it's their responsibility, and that is anti-Semite.
Une petite fille de 12 ans a été violée en France par ses camarades de classe car elle était juive et ils ont fait ça pour la Palestine.
Right. So a little girl who was 12 years old was actually raped by her classmates. And they said they did that because they were supporting Palestine.
Et le dernier exemple, c'est durant une manifestation,
So, and the last example is that during a demonstration,
un militant palestinien a fait un discours en arabe.
so one of the militants, a Palestinian militants or pro-Palestinian militants, was giving a speech in Arabic.
En arabe, il disait les juifs et le traducteur disait en français les sionistes.
Yeah. So in Arabic, he actually said he used the term the Jews, but the translator translated it as the Zionists. Wow.
Et j'aurais encore beaucoup d'exemples, mais je pense que ça explique bien que... Ah si, très important, il y a quelques juifs qu'ils acceptent et qu'ils utilisent comme caution.
Yeah. So of course, very important to point out, there are certain Jews that they accept, right? And that they use as a sort of
Caution.
yeah. Yeah, use as
What kind of Jews are these?
Ouais. Ils sont très 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 peu nombreux, je les ai vus, mais les conditions qu'on leur demande,
they're very few, but what they're the conditions that are asked from them
c'est d'appeler à la destruction d'Israël,
to call for the destruction of Israel. So
et,
anti-Zionist Jews, essentially, which we know.
yes,
you know,
but it's not just anti-sioniste. Il leur demande d'appeler à ce que Israël n'existe plus et qu'il n'y ait que les Palestiniens.
And so not only that Israel should cease to exist, but that it's only a space for Palestinians.
Et de soutenir le Hamas.
And to support Hamas. Those are, if Jews do that, then they're accepted and, of course, used as sort of a showcase, used as a,
ouais.
like
a token Jews.
Yes.
Like a token.
Yes. It's terrible. J'ai enquêté sur certains. Ils sont très peu et ils sont actuellement poursuivis en France pour avoir peut-être levé des fonds pour le Hamas. Il y a une enquête en cours.
Yeah, so I have interviewed several of them, and there's actually now an inquiry in France because there are questions being raised that they might have been part of raising funds for Hamas. These Jews.
Wow. I want to ask also, because oftentimes when we see these demonstrations, what they write on their posters and billboards, they're saying Zionists. They're always using Zionists. Very, very rarely do they use Jews. But is it like when the demonstration is over and when you were undercover behind the scenes with them, did they actually use the word Jews instead? Did they say like these damn Jews, or did they use the word Jews instead of Zionists behind the scenes?
Je trouve que très vite, le terme sioniste a remplacé le terme juif.
So
mais il l'utilise tout le temps.
I think that very quickly, the term Zionist replaced the word Jew, and they used the Zionist word as all the time, you know.
Ils voient par exemple des hommes avec une kippa et ils vont dire encore et toujours les sionistes.
Yeah, and so when they see a man wearing a kippah, they'll say things like, see, it's still always a Zionist.
Donc ils vont, c'est comme s'ils avaient trouvé la meilleure des excuses.
It's as if they have found, the best excuse, right?
But why did they avoid using the word Jew specifically, you think?
Ils ne l'utilisent pas car pour beaucoup de ces militants, l'antisémitisme n'existe qu'à l'extrême droite. Et donc, c'est l'extrême droite qui fait ça. Et eux ne sont pas antisémites.
So, in other words, for many of these activists, anti-Semitism is something that belongs to the far right, the extreme right. And so that's who would use the word Jew. And that's sort of almost like nostalgic, like kind of quaint, whereas Zionist is the more urgent.
More modern.
Yeah.
En fait, c'est pour se distinguer, alors qu'ils font pareil que l'extrême droite.
Yeah, and so actually I needed to underline that because Nora did. But so the activists that we're talking about and where she infiltrated are like left, left
Hmm.
on the left, liberal, left wing. Okay. And what they don't realize is in fact that they're doing the same exact thing as the far right. It's just with different labels.
Yes. It's a question?
Yeah, no. I just was
Okay.
translating.
Did you also, one thing I'm wondering about, because was the individuals in these kinds of groups, what kind of different people were there? Because we also heard about these campaigns from foreign intelligence services infiltrating these groups, trying to affect the Western worlds with more polarization, more hate, trying to use the conflict zones that are already here in Europe and boosting them and making them even more on fire. Did you ever see some kind of agents or Iranian agents or like terrorists or from other kinds of intelligence services?
Oui, durant mon immersion, j'ai suivi des agents du régime iranien et j'en ai étudié un. Il va d'ailleurs, grâce à nos enquêtes, bientôt être jugé en France et il n'a plus le droit de quitter le territoire.
So, yes, indeed, I saw several agents, specifically of the Iranian regime. And one, as a matter of fact, is being pursued now legally in France, and he is not allowed to leave because there's a case now against him.
How did you know he was an agent? Did you say
Yes, of
so?
course. C'est un agent car il a fait des allers-retours au cœur du régime. Il a soutenu le régime iranien et surtout, il relaye tous les communiqués du régime et il est lié à l'ambassade du régime en France.
So he's has connections. He's connected to the Iranian embassy in France, and he has traveled much often back and forth between the two, and he has relayed or brought and shared information, from the Iranian regime.
Il est lui-même est franco-iranien et le plus important, c'est qu'il a 1 demi-million d'abonnés sur les réseaux sociaux.
Yeah, he has 500,000, like 500,000 followers on social media, and he's a he's French Iranian nationality.
Et il encourage ses abonnés en leur disant que pour soutenir la cause palestinienne, ils doivent soutenir l'axe de la résistance.
So, he's encouraging all his followers in order to oppose, to support the Palestinian cause, they should also support the Axis resistance, which of course includes the Iranian regime.
Yes, Hezbollah, Hamas, Houthis, Islamic Jihad, and more. Et je l'ai suivi lui, mais j'ai également suivi Samidoun. Je vais vous présenter Samidoun.
So I have followed him, this person, this French Iranian, and know all these things about him. And I've also followed this Samidoun, and I'm going to present him to you and tell you about him.
Samidoun is a charitable facade of the FPLP.
So he's a charitable face?
C'est la façade caritative.
Yeah, so he's sort of the charitable face of the FLP, which is the communist
Front Populaire of Palestinian Liberation.
Yes.
PFLP,
the Popular Front.
Oui.
Yeah, FLP.
Samidoun a été interdit aux États-Unis, au Canada, aux Pays-Bas et en Allemagne. Il est classé terroriste.
He cannot enter the United States, Canada, and you said Holland,
États-Unis
Canada, Holland, les
Yes,
Pays-Bas,
Holland. Yes,
and-
Holland, Allemagne,
and Germany.
Germany.
So he's
Germany.
Mhm.
Et Samidoun, le but de Samidoun est de s'infiltrer dans les universités.
So his goal is to infiltrate university spaces.
C'était le
How do you
cas
spell his
en
name? Samidoun, S-A-M-I? Sami?
Samidoun. Samidoun est très, très dangereuse. Elle a un grand réseau à travers le monde. Elle s'infiltre dans les universités en France, en Belgique aussi.
So he has a huge network all over the world, and he infiltrates universities in the United States and also in Belgium.
Le but de Samidoun est de radicaliser tous les étudiants qui soutiennent la Palestine pour les faire soutenir le Hamas et le FPLP.
Right. So his goal is to radicalize students, all students who are pro-Palestinian, to radicalize them enough that they will support the FLP and Hezbollah or Hamas.
La porte-parole de Samidoun Europe, qui s'appelle Charlotte Cates.
Encore?
Alors, la porte-parole de Samidoun Europe, qui s'appelle Charlotte Cates, a reçu un prix par le régime de la République islamique d'Iran pour la féliciter et féliciter Samidoun.
So he has received a prize by the Iranian Republic to congratulate him specifically.
Her, because it's a woman, Charlotte Cates.
Oh yeah, okay, Charlotte Cates, who is a spokesperson for Samidoun, has been honored in this way by the Iranian regime.
C'était le prix des droits de l'homme.
Ironically, it's a prize for the human rights. It's a human rights prize from the Iranian regime, by the Iranian regime
in Iran. And Samidoun and the Islamic regime of Iran are connected.
Right, and Samidoun is connected to the Islamic regime in Iran.
Did people in this pro-Palestinian community know that the Iranian state were sending agents and that you had a lot of undercover people, agents trying to affect, or did they never know about this stuff and believed his facade?
Ils n'y croyaient pas ou ils s'en fichaient avant janvier et février. Avant, ils s'en fichaient.
So before January or February this year, 2026, they either didn't believe it or they didn't care.
Les deux. Both. Ils n'y croyaient pas, ils s'en fichaient. Mais depuis qu'il y a eu les massacres du régime iranien sur les Iraniens, c'est comme un bug dans la matrice pour eux.
Yeah. So, after the massacres in Iran by the regime to the demonstrators against the regime, it's almost like it's a bug in their system. They can't calibrate it.
Car ils ont voulu dénoncer les victimes iraniennes, mais on leur a rappelé qu'ils doivent soutenir l'axe de la résistance et que s'ils soutiennent l'axe de la résistance, ils soutiennent le régime.
So, they have wanted to, of course, support the victims of the killings in Iran, but by supporting the victims, then they can't support the axis of resistance, and then they are no longer supporting the Iranian regime. It's like...
Mais il y avait des scènes folles, comme un homme qui brandissait dans une manif féministe le drapeau du régime iranien.
So it's been like surreal kind of situations where there was a man who, at a feminist demonstration, was waving the Iranian flag of the regime.
Of the regime, of course.
Yeah.
I have the picture. And if you want, I have a lot of pictures and movies about my immersion. So if you want, I can forward to you in WhatsApp.
Please, yes. That would be great.
No problem.
Because the situations like that where they almost have a bug in their machinery, they can't make it work. Why didn't that wake them up to see that, hey, what am I doing? to make them introspect and make them look at themselves. Like, did that never happen? Did they have no kind of like introspection around it?
Non, en fait, dans ces moments-là, ils ne savent plus quoi dire, mais il faut comprendre qu'il y a un effet de manipulation mentale et ils n'osent pas parler car ils ont peur de tout perdre.
Mhm. So they're afraid to lose anything. You know, they don't dare to speak up, even though they might have a sense of that they're being manipulated.
Et le plus important, c'est qu'ils ont très peur d'être accusés à leur tour, d'être islamophobiques, d'être racistes, d'être des sionistes.
So, you know, they're petrified to be branded or identified or called out as Islamophobes or Zionists or what was the last thing you said?
Sionistes.
Colonists.
Come again? Yeah.
Sionistes.
Yeah.
Because I've been reacting to that because after we saw the horror of what the Iranian regime did to like 40,000 people, killing them in 48 hours, where are all the pro-Palestinian people are always out there marching in the streets for the Gazan people? Why weren't they saying anything for the Iranian people? And I've been wondering about that. And I'm wondering, is that because if they did that, then they would in practice actually be on the side of the US and then on the side of Israel that is actually trying to fight the regime. Is that, you think, why they weren't able to go out into the streets like that?
Oui, car il faut comprendre que nous sommes face à des militants d'ultra-gauche.
We have to understand that we're actually dealing here with the militants of the ultra-left. You know,
Ces militants veulent déstabiliser nos institutions démocratiques.
so their aim essentially is to destabilize our democratic institutions.
Ils se battent contre l'Occident, l'impérialisme, les États-Unis et Israël.
Yeah, and so they are fighting, if you will, against the West, against imperialism, against the United States, and against Israel.
Et donc, ce qu'ils ont en commun, c'est le même projet que les frères musulmans.
Yeah, so they have the same project, the same ideas, and fight the same fight as Muslim Brotherhood.
Je travaille beaucoup sur les frères musulmans en France et en Europe et ils investissent beaucoup la cause palestinienne. Ce sont les frères musulmans qui sont connectés au Hamas.
It's a Muslim Brotherhood that, you know, is connected with Hamas, and it's a lot of the same work.
Did you find... Yeah, please, go ahead.
Le projet des frères musulmans, c'est aussi de déstabiliser nos institutions démocratiques, mais pour appliquer la charia.
So Muslim Brotherhood has the same sort of goal of destabilizing democratic institutions, and Nora is saying our democratic institutions, as in France specifically, in order, and Europe generally, in order to impose Sharia law.
Did you ever become frustrated, let's say, with the kind of individuals who were in this actually naively thinking like this is about poor Palestinians or poor Gazan people who were not seeing this whole thing that you're describing now with the Muslim Brotherhood and Sharia and actually destabilizing democracy, who weren't seeing that, who thought it was just about naively supporting poor Palestinians? Were you frustrated seeing that?
Oui, c'est très dur parce que après la sortie de mon livre, j'ai été invitée à témoigner par le gouvernement à l'Assemblée nationale dans une. Sorry.
So after my book came out, I was invited to speak at the National Assembly by the government, invited by the government.
Car il faisait une enquête sur les liens entre des partis politiques et l'islamisme en France.
So they were doing, you know, work to understand better the connections between what were you saying? Between
les partis politiques.
Yeah, political parties in France and Islamism.
D'ailleurs, ma commission, mon audition est disponible sur YouTube.
So you can watch this on YouTube, actually. This
Et j'ai listé tous les faits précis de connexion, et cela a été très, très, très dur pour moi.
mhm.
Et
So
après,
it
je
was
rajoute.
very, very difficult for me, but I actually listed all the points of connection. You know, I was able to do that.
Ouais. Car comme je suis arabe, j'ai été accusée d'être une traîtresse, une arabe de service Arab Token,
Mhm.
et j'ai dû porter plainte. J'ai été sous protection policière et
So
maintenant je suis tout le temps.
she because of this she needed political protection. She was accused of being, you know, a Arab token person, and most of all to be a traitor.
Hmm.
Ouais.
Yeah.
Et donc pour moi, je les voyais complètement naïfs et je leur donnais des faits concrets. Par exemple,
So
euh,
I really experienced these people who she was giving her testimony in front of as very, very naive, and she was giving them very concrete examples.
par exemple, nous avons une députée européenne qui s'appelle Rima Hassan.
So we have a European deputy. His name,
Her
her
name.
name, yeah, is
Rima Hassan.
Rima Sen. Mm-hmm.
J'ai beaucoup enquêté sur Rima Hassan. Elle est d'origine palestinienne.
Okay, she's I've done a lot of research on her, and she's of Palestinian origin.
Elle est partie avec Greta Thunberg sur la flottille à Gaza.
Mm-hmm. So she went with Greta Thunberg on the flotilla toward Gaza.
Et Rima Hassan a invité au Parlement européen.
So she was invited.
Oui, elle est députée. Elle a invité au Parlement européen.
She has been invited to be part of the no. Encore une
Non,
fois.
pardon.
No.
Rima Hassan, en
Mhm.
tant que députée européenne,
Okay.
a invité au Parlement européen 2 émanations des frères musulmans.
Yeah. So she, in her role, in the European,
Députés.
as a deputy, she has invited 2 people to come in and speak, or
It's not people, it's représentation. Two
No,
representation of Muslim Brotherhood.
yeah. So 2 representatives from Muslim Brotherhood.
It's altruism to invite Muslim Brotherhood into the European Parliament. It's
Mhm.
altruism.
Is it's c'est quoi? C'est interdit? Non.
Vous ne connaissez pas l'entrisme? Entrisme.
Oh, entrisme.
Yes,
Oui, je
entrisme.
connais pas vraiment le mot, même en anglais.
Maybe I can search in my computer. It's important because entrism, it's when the Islamists, Muslim Brotherhood, Salafists can
it's
go
infiltration. It's
Yes,
infiltration.
infiltration.
Mhm.
Yes, it's infiltration.
Wow. C'est grave.
Par contre, je
That's
suis
serious.
désolée. Ouais, it's very serious. Je suis désolée. Alors, est-ce que tu peux lui dire que je dois partir à 18h30 et que je n'ai
Yes.
quasiment plus de batterie?
Yes. Okay. So her battery is running out, and she needs to end by 6:30. Mhm.
Yeah. So, like, just to follow up on that final question, I was just wondering if you saw
Okay.
some of those like young, naive people themselves in those groups coming in, like young people thinking like this is about the poor Palestinians. Did you see many of those people in the demonstrations in the group?
J'ai pas compris la question.
Oui,
Il a
donc,
demandé.
quand vous avez participé aux manifestations, est-ce que vous avez vu ou est-ce que vous avez eu
Naive.
oui, est-ce que vous avez vu ou les jeunes qui paraissaient vraiment naïves et qui n'avaient aucune idée que c'était une manifestation et qu'ils participaient aux idées beaucoup plus grandes que seulement pour les Palestiniens.
Et oui, c'est même la majorité.
It's even the majority, she's saying. Yeah.
Ce sont
majority.
des jeunes. Dans mon livre, je consacre un chapitre au mouvement Blockout sur les réseaux sociaux.
Yeah. So she's has a whole chapter in her book on the blockout movement
Le
in
mouvement
social
Blockout,
media. Mhm.
ouais, le mouvement Blockout a été lancé par Boycott des investissements sanctions.
Yeah. So it's BDS, right? That
Yeah.
is behind
Yes.
that. Mhm.
Il a été lancé par BDS. Le but, c'était de forcer les influenceurs et les célébrités à prendre position contre Israël.
The goal of this organization is to force essentially famous people and influencers to come on the side and be against Israel.
Dans plein de pays, comme les États-Unis et la France, ils ont fait des listes de toutes les célébrités qui n'avaient pas fait ça pour appeler à les boycotter.
So both France and the United States have made lists of
Yes.
famous people or influencers who have become part of
Never speak about Palestine or to defend Israel.
right.
And just to plan the October 7.
Yeah.
Et ils ont demandé à tous leurs abonnés de les unfollow.
Right. So it's that organization that has asked all their followers to unfollow, famous people or influencers who have not bought into the pro-Palestinian narrative.
Also, I want to ask you before we quit, is that these things that we are speaking about now, how they are trying to destabilize democracies and get Sharia in Europe and fight against our institutions. Do you think this goes for most of these? This goes for, in general, the pro-Palestinian movements everywhere? Or is this just one particular group that is like that? Or is this all of the pro-Palestinian movements that are like this?
Je dirais que c'est le propre des mouvements anti-israéliens, pas pro-palestiniens.
I would say that it's the
Anti-israéli.
Yeah, it's primarily the modus operandi, if you will, right, of the anti-Israel movement.
Et
Specifically.
c'est le propre des militants d'ultra-gauche, car l'ultra-gauche, qu'est-ce que c'est? Ce sont ultra-gauche, it's you have anarchy, you have anti-fascist, you have black bloc, radical, ecological, a lot of struggles, very separate.
It's the nature of the organization.
Yes, it's the nature of ecological radical, of black bloc, of anti-fascist, anti-police movement, décolonial, and more. Et c'est ça qui les réunit. It's a reunification.
So you could almost say that it's an equal sign between being pro-Palestinian is the same as being anti-Israel.
Oui, c'est le ciment qui fédère. C'est l'ennemi. C'est le ciment. C'est la cause qui les fédère. Et the convergence of the struggles.
Convergence of struggles, and it's the cement that sort of holds it together.
Yeah. Thank you. Nina, did you have one question of yours before we hang up and
I have
finish the
so
episode?
many, but I'm going to try to, stay in touch because Henrik is doing important work in Norway. And my question to you would be, is your book going to be translated to English?
I cross my finger. It's on negotiations. And it will be traduced in Italia and in Brasilia and a lot of countries. I present my books in a lot of countries. And I was tagged, I was mentioned in X by Netherlands and Denmark and a lot of countries. I think your podcast is important to present another message in this country, because I receive a lot of message in a lot of people dans plein de pays qui me disent vraiment, il faut faut traduire le livre.
Yeah, yeah. So she gets a lot of messages from people from many, many countries. It's such an important message, and your book needs to be translated. I just want to congratulate you on your important work and to say, like, keep doing it, and we'll
Yes.
share on social media,
Thank
and
you.
really, it's amazing.
Yeah, thank you, Nora, and thank you for
For
being
the
so
interview.
brave, for being undercover like that for 1 year. That's really brave work, and thank you for doing it. And I really hope you translate it to English and publish it so that as many people as possible can read it.
Thank you for the interview and thank you for the translate. It's very difficult for me to be easy and comfortable in English, and thank you.
Your English is
And
doing
thank you
well.
for the questions. You asked to me a very good questions. When you said it's violence or it's just the Palestinian struggles, and I don't know. You know the expression who the c'est ça.
In English,
chicken.
we say, what comes first, the chicken or the egg?
Yes,
Yes,
that's it.
yes.
Was the chicken
Yes,
or
that's what I'm
the
wondering.
egg?
Exactly.
Yes. And, it's very complicated. Thank you.
Yes. Thank
Right.
you, and thanks for now. Bye bye, Nora. Bye bye, Nina.
Bye.
Thank you.
Thank you again.
Thank
Bye-bye.
you.